As I sit here pen in hand, the memories of that summer in 1992 flood back to me with vivid clarity. It was a time of innocence and adventure, the kind that can only be fully appreciated through the nostalgic lens of adulthood. Our family, the Adlers, were your typical suburban clan, caught up in the daily routines that make life both comforting and, at times, monotonous. My father, David, was an accountant, a man of numbers and logic, while my mother, Laura, was the heart of our home, her days filled with the quiet labor of love that often goes unnoticed. Together they were a study in contrasts, yet perfectly complementary. I was the eldest, Chris, a typical teenager, caught between the world of childhood and the allure of adulthood. My sister Megan, just 2 years younger, was my partner in crime, forever ready for an adventure, her spirit as wild and untamed as her curly hair. And then there was Lily, our littlest, a precocious 12-year-old with eyes that saw the magic in everything. That summer, with the sun high and school a distant memory, my father announced his grand plan, a camping trip to the remote woods of Montana. He spoke of it with a sparkle in his eyes, a man eager to break free from the constraints of his office and spreadsheets. My mother, ever the nurturer, packed with care, her mind already running through 1,000 scenarios to ensure our safety and comfort. Megan's excitement was palpable, her energy infectious, while Lily's imagination ran wild with tales of woodland creatures and hidden treasures. The journey to our destination was an adventure in itself. Our car was packed to the brim, a jigsaw puzzle of camping gear, snacks, and the occasional elbow in someone's side. We traveled through changing landscapes, each mile taking us further from the familiar. I remember the way the urban jungle gave way to open fields, and then to towering mountains and dense forests, nature's majesty unfolding before us. As we ventured deeper into the Montana wilderness, the air grew fresher, and the sounds of the city were replaced by the symphony of the natural world. The road became a mere dirt track, winding and narrow, with each turn revealing vistas that took our breath away. It was during one such turn that we first saw the cabin. It stood alone, a relic of a bygone era, its wooden structure weathered by time and the elements. It was as if the cabin had grown out of the land itself, so seamlessly did it blend into the surrounding forest. Our initial excitement was tinged with a hint of unease. The cabin was not marked on any map, and its isolation was both alluring and slightly unsettling. We set up camp in a clearing not far from the cabin, the forest canopy above providing a natural shelter. The air was filled with the scent of pine and earth, a fragrance that I can still recall if I close my eyes and allow myself to be transported back to that moment. That first night, as we sat around the campfire, the flickering flames casting dancing shadows around us, we were a family united by a sense of adventure and the unknown. The cabin, though, remained a silent sentinel in the distance, its dark windows like eyes watching over us. Its presence was a mystery, one that beckoned us with an unspoken invitation to uncover its secrets. Little did we know then, as we laughed and shared stories under the starlit sky, that our curiosity would lead us down a path of strange discoveries and mysteries that would forever change us. Hey, quick reminder! Don't forget to subscribe and like for more videos. The dawn of our second day in the wilderness greeted us with a chorus of bird song and a light mist that hung over the forest like a veil. After a breakfast of charred toast and scrambled eggs, prepared with more love than culinary skill by my mother, our family embarked on an exploratory hike through the dense woods surrounding our campsite. Megan, with her boundless energy, led the way, her laughter echoing through the trees, while Lily clutched her sketchbook, eager to capture the beauty of the untamed wilderness. My parents walked hand in hand, a rare and tender sight. As we ventured deeper into the forest, the cabin from the previous night loomed large in my thoughts. It stood there, an enigma wrapped in wood and silence, beckoning us with its mysterious allure. The decision to visit it was unspoken, but unanimous. The cabin, once a distant figure in our campsite tales, now stood before us, its aged timber creaking softly in the wind. The door of the cabin hung askew on its hinges, an open mouth whispering secrets of the past. As we crossed the threshold, a musty scent, the perfume of age and disuse, filled our nostrils. The interior was shrouded in shadows, the light filtering through the broken windows casting patterns on the dusty floor. Cobwebs adorned the corners like macabre decorations, and a thick layer of dust covered everything, as if the cabin was trying to preserve its memories under a blanket of time. In the eerie silence, our footsteps sounded unnaturally loud. The cabin, though abandoned, felt alive, as if it breathed with the memories of those who once called it home. We found remnants of a life long gone, a rusty wood stove, a table set with cracked porcelain, and a rocking chair that swayed slightly, as if recently vacated. Our curiosity turned to unease as we discovered a room that appeared to be a study. The walls were lined with bookshelves, their contents a collection of old, leather-bound books, their pages yellowed with age. Amidst the books, photographs in faded sepia tones showcased a family I did not recognize, their eyes following us with silent intensity. But it was the carvings that drew our attention the most. Etched into the wooden walls were symbols, cryptic and unfamiliar, their meanings lost to time. Megan traced her fingers over them, her brow furrowed in concentration, while Lily sketched them in her book, her hand moving with a sense of urgency. As the day waned, a sense of foreboding settled over us. The cabin, once an object of intrigue, now felt like a trap, its secrets too heavy, too dark. We left in silence, the cabin's door creaking shut behind us like a final goodbye. That night, back at our campsite, the atmosphere was subdued. The fire crackled and popped, but its warmth did little to dispel the chill that had settled in our bones. My parents exchanged worried glances, their earlier ease replaced by a palpable tension. Megan and Lily retreated into their own worlds, the former deep in thought, the latter furiously sketching the symbols we had found. Sleep was elusive that night. The forest, once a symphony of natural sounds, now seemed to whisper and murmur with voices of the unknown. The cabin, with its eerie carvings and forgotten memories, had opened a door to something unsettling, a story that beckoned us to uncover its truths, yet warned us of the darkness that lay within. The morning following our unsettling discovery at the cabin brought no relief from the unease that had settled over our camp. The sun rose, casting its light through the trees, but the shadows it created seemed darker, more ominous. My father tried to lighten the mood with his usual jokes, but his laughter sounded hollow, forced against the backdrop of our collective apprehension. As we set about our day, attempting to recapture the carefree spirit of our adventure, peculiar occurrences began to unfold. It started subtly: a misplaced backpack, a water bottle gone missing. Objects we were certain we had packed were nowhere to be found. My mother, ever the voice of reason, suggested we had simply been careless, but the unease in her eyes belied her calm words. By midday, the oddities escalated. While exploring a different part of the forest, we heard a sound that was out of place in the natural chorus. A faint, rhythmic tapping, as if someone, or something, was knocking on wood. We followed the sound, our steps cautious, only to find it cease abruptly, leaving us in an unnerving silence. That evening, as dusk began to settle, the forest around us seemed to come alive with strange animal calls, unlike any we had heard before. The sounds were unsettlingly human, a cacophony of cries and whispers that seemed to surround us. My father, with a bravado I knew was feigned, assured us they were just the sounds of nocturnal creatures, but his voice wavered, betraying his uncertainty. The real terror, however, began after nightfall. As we sat around the campfire, trying to salvage some semblance of normalcy, the air around us grew inexplicably colder. A dense fog rolled in, enveloping our campsite in a ghostly embrace. We huddled closer to the fire, its warmth a meager defense against the chill that crept into our bones. Then, the most harrowing occurrence of all. Megan screamed. We all turned to see her staring, wide-eyed and pale, into the darkness beyond the firelight. She stammered about seeing a figure, a shadow that moved among the trees, watching us. My father and I grabbed our flashlights and ventured into the fog, but found nothing except the oppressive stillness of the forest. That night, no one slept. We stayed awake, the fire burning low, each of us lost in our thoughts, jumping at every crackle of a branch or rustle of leaves. The sense of being watched, of not being alone in the wilderness, clung to us like a second skin. In the pale light of dawn, with heavy eyes and weary hearts, we found more disturbances. Footprints encircled our camp, too large and irregular to be any animal we knew. And there, on the edge of the clearing, a series of symbols were etched into the ground, mirroring those we had seen in the cabin. They formed a circle, with our campsite at its center. The realization hit us like a physical blow. We were not just random campers in these woods. We were intruders in a place that held secrets far older and deeper than we could imagine. The cabin, the symbols, the unexplained events, they were pieces of a puzzle that we were now a part of, whether we liked it or not. As the sun rose higher, casting light on the mysteries that plagued our night, we knew that our adventure had taken a turn into the unknown, and there was no turning back. The forest, with its hidden depths and ancient whispers, had more to reveal, and we were unwittingly drawn into its narrative, a story that was unfolding with each passing moment. The days following the mysterious occurrences at our campsite blurred into a surreal tapestry of fear and confusion. Each morning, we awoke with the hope that the previous day's events had been nothing but a shared nightmare, only to find that the reality we faced was far more unsettling. The forest, once a haven of natural beauty, now felt like a labyrinth, its paths leading us further into the unknown. It was on the fourth day of our trip that the true climax of our ordeal unfolded. Megan, ever the impulsive one, proposed a plan to seek help. Her reasoning was sound. We needed to find a ranger or anyone who could guide us out of this bewildering situation. Despite my parents' apprehensions, they agreed, the need for a resolution overriding their fear of the unknown. Megan and I set out at dawn, armed with backpacks, water, and a rugged determination. The forest greeted us with its now customary silence, a hush that seemed to weigh upon our spirits. We followed a trail that, according to our map, led to a ranger station, but the further we ventured, the more it became apparent that the forest had other plans. The trail, once clear, became overgrown, as if nature itself was conspiring to keep its secrets hidden. We pressed on, our initial confidence waning with each step. The trees seemed to close in around us, their branches whispering secrets we couldn't understand. Time lost its meaning as we wandered, the sun's position our only guide. Then, in a cruel twist of fate, we found ourselves standing at the edge of a clearing, but not the one we had set out from. Before us lay a hidden cave, its mouth gaping open like a dark wound in the earth. The air around it was colder, charged with an energy that seemed ancient and otherworldly. Compelled by a mixture of fear and fascination, we entered the cave. The light from our flashlights revealed walls adorned with more symbols, similar yet distinctly different from those we had seen in the cabin. In the heart of the cave, we found a collection of artifacts, stone tools, pottery, and, most unsettlingly, a journal. The journal, bound in weathered leather, contained entries in a shaky hand, detailing a history that intertwined with the land and the cabin. It spoke of rituals, of guardianship, and of a balance that must be maintained. The words were cryptic, but their implication was clear. We were not merely lost in a forest. We were entangled in a story that stretched back centuries. Our return to the camp was a blur of panic and disorientation. The forest seemed to shift around us, the path back more elusive than ever. Hours passed, the light dimmed, and our shouts for help went unanswered. It was only by sheer luck, or perhaps some unseen guidance, that we stumbled back into our campsite, where our parents awaited us, their relief quickly turning to horror as we recounted our discovery. That night, as we huddled together, the forest no longer felt like a mere backdrop to our ordeal, but a living, breathing entity, aware of our presence and unwilling to let us go easily. The journal's revelations hung over us, a puzzle whose pieces were scattered across time and space. We were lost, not just in the woods, but in the midst of a story whose ending was yet to be written, a climax that we were now an inextricable part of. In the wake of our harrowing experience in the cave, the fabric of our reality seemed irreversibly altered. The once familiar woods now held a foreboding presence, whispering secrets we were only beginning to understand. The journal's revelations had cast a shadow over our camp, imbuing every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs with ominous significance. The next morning, under a sky heavy with unspoken fears, my father made a decision. We had to leave, immediately. The forest, with its cryptic symbols and enigmatic cave, was no longer just a backdrop for a family adventure. It was a labyrinth holding mysteries that felt increasingly perilous. Our hurried preparations to leave were frenetic, yet tinged with a sense of dread. The once simple acts of dismantling tents and packing supplies were now fraught with urgency. My mother, usually the epitome of calm, moved with a briskness that betrayed her anxiety. Lily clung to her sketchbook, her drawings of the symbols a tangible reminder of the enigma surrounding us. As we embarked on our journey out of the forest, the atmosphere was tense, each of us lost in our thoughts, the echoes of the journal's words haunting our steps. The forest, once vibrant with life, now seemed to watch us with 1,000 unseen eyes, its silence more oppressive than any sound. Our progress was painstakingly slow. The path, clear in our memories, was now a maze of uncertainty. Every turn seemed to lead us deeper into the forest's embrace, the trees standing like silent sentinels, guarding secrets we were never meant to uncover. In this race against time, nature itself seemed to conspire against us. The sun, our guide through the dense canopy, was often obscured by clouds, casting our surroundings in a gloomy pallor. The forest, alive with hidden forces, appeared to shift and change, disorienting us further. Every direction we took seemed to lead us back to the same spot. as if the land itself was reluctant to release us from its grasp. Amidst this chaos, the most unsettling realization was the feeling of being followed. It was a presence we could neither see nor hear, yet its watchfulness was palpable, a weight upon our every step. The symbols we had seen, both in the cabin and the cave, seemed to resonate with a significance we could barely grasp, as if we had unwittingly become part of a narrative much older and deeper than ourselves. As the day waned into evening, our situation grew more desperate. The boundary between reality and the unknown blurred, the forest around us a living entity with its own will and purpose. Our efforts to escape felt increasingly futile, as if we were pawns in a game whose rules we did not understand. That night, we camped in a clearing, a hollow gesture of rest in a place that offered no respite. The fire we built flickered with an almost mocking light, casting long shadows that danced with our fears. We sat in silence, each lost in our thoughts, the weight of our predicament a heavy cloak around our shoulders. The journal's cryptic words echoed in my mind, a puzzle whose pieces were scattered and elusive. We were caught in a web of history and mystery, the truth of which lay just beyond our grasp. As I gazed into the fire, the flames seemed to whisper of ancient rights and guardianship, of a balance disturbed and a story that demanded to be completed. In this race against time, we were not just seeking a way out of the forest. We were searching for an understanding of a narrative that had entangled us in its ancient roots. The dawn that greeted us after our restless night in the clearing was unlike any other. It was as if the forest itself had changed, the air heavy with a sense of anticipation. We awoke with a singular purpose: to break free from the clutches of the woods that had become our prison. As we packed our meager belongings, a palpable sense of urgency propelled us. The enigmatic presence that had dogged our steps seemed closer, more insistent. It was no longer just a feeling of being watched, it was an impending sense of a story reaching its climax, with us at its center. We set out at first light, following the sun as it carved a path through the dense canopy above. Our movements were mechanical, driven by a desperate need to escape the labyrinth that the forest had become. The strange occurrences of the previous days, the shifting paths, the elusive presence, the whispering trees, had escalated into a crescendo of surreal experiences. As we trudged through the underbrush, the forest around us seemed to pulsate with an unseen energy. The air was thick with the scent of earth and decay, as if the ground itself was exhaling the breath of ages. The trees, once majestic in their stoic beauty, now loomed over us like ancient guardians, their branches creaking and groaning with the weight of untold secrets. The symbols we had encountered, both in the cabin and the cave, seemed to be a key to understanding the forest's enigma. They appeared in our path, etched into the earth, carved into tree trunks, an unspoken language that beckoned us towards an unknown destination. Our journey was a blur of surreal landscapes and unexplained phenomena. Time seemed to warp, the distance we covered bearing no relation to the effort we expended. The forest, with its shifting shadows and elusive sounds, was a maze with no discernible exit. Then, in a moment that felt both expected and utterly astonishing, we stumbled upon a clearing. But it was not just any clearing. It was the very spot where our journey had begun, our campsite. The realization hit us like a physical blow. How had we returned to the start, when every step had been taken with the intention of moving away? The forest around us fell into a hushed silence, as if it too was holding its breath. And then, with a suddenness that left us reeling, the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The air cleared, the sun broke through the canopy in brilliant beams, and the forest's whispers faded into the background. We packed our belongings in a daze, our actions robotic. As we drove away, the forest receded into the background, its mysteries remaining shrouded in shadows and silence. The escape felt less like a victory and more like a release, a relinquishing of a narrative that we were never meant to fully comprehend. In the days and weeks that followed, we spoke little of our experience. It was as if by acknowledging it, we would give the story power, allowing it to entangle us once more in its ancient web. The forest had released us, but the echoes of its secrets remained, a haunting melody that played at the edges of our memories. Our mysterious escape from the woods was not an end, but a pause in a story that spanned centuries. We had been part of something larger, a narrative that wove through time and space, touching lives and shaping destinies. As I reflect on those days, I realize that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, their truths residing in the realm of the unknown, a testament to the enduring enigma of the natural world. Years have passed since our enigmatic journey into the heart of those ancient woods, a chapter of my life that remains shrouded in mystery and unspoken questions. The passage of time has softened the edges of those memories, but the core of the experience remains vivid, a haunting reminder of the unknown that lies just beyond the veil of our understanding. I often find myself reflecting on those days, turning over the events in my mind like a puzzle whose pieces never quite fit. My family, each in their own way, has carried the weight of that experience. We speak little of it, as if by mutual agreement, yet it lingers in our shared glances and unspoken understandings. My father, once a man of logic and reason, found himself questioning the very foundations of his beliefs. He delved into studies of folklore and ancient civilizations, seeking answers in dusty tomes and forgotten manuscripts. His quest for understanding became a quiet obsession, one that he pursued with a fervor that was both admirable and, at times, concerning. My mother, ever the pragmatist, focused on the tangible aspects of our experience. She organized our family photos, documented our trip meticulously, and occasionally, in unguarded moments, I would catch her gazing at the sketches Lily had made of the symbols, a pensive look in her eyes. Megan, forever changed by our ordeal, turned to art as her outlet. Her canvases became a riot of color and abstract forms, her way of processing the emotions and fears that the forest had stirred in her. She spoke little of that time, but her work spoke volumes, a visual diary of an experience too profound for words. Lily, the youngest and perhaps the most affected, became drawn to the natural world. She pursued studies in anthropology and archaeology, driven by a need to understand the ancient practices and beliefs that had touched our lives. Her fascination with the symbols we encountered in the forest evolved into an academic passion, one that took her to distant lands and ancient sites. As for me, I find myself caught between the desire to forget and the need to remember. I became a writer, channeling my experiences into stories and narratives, a way of making sense of the senseless. The forest and its mysteries became a recurring theme in my work, a metaphor for the unknown that lies just beyond our comprehension. Occasionally, I dream of the forest, of the cabin and the cave, of the symbols that seem to hold the key to an ancient narrative. In these dreams, I wander the paths we once trod, each step a journey into the depths of memory and mystery. The forest, in its timeless silence, holds its secrets close, a reminder of the mysteries that exist at the edges of our reality. The experience in the forest remains a pivotal chapter in our lives, a journey that took us to the brink of the unknown and back. It was a reminder of the thin veil that separates the known from the mysterious, a testament to the enduring enigma of our existence. As I pen these final words, I realize that some stories are not meant to be concluded, but to be carried with us. A perpetual narrative that weaves through the tapestry of our lives, forever a part of who we are. We have come to the end of our story. Subscribe and like the video so as not to miss the videos that we will upload in the future. I'll see you in the next story.